Another fantastic college football day is in the books. College football playoffs, round two, almost complete. We still have one more game tomorrow afternoon. They did finally announce the time, 4:30 Eastern time, I believe, for tomorrow's Georgia Notre Dame game, which was postponed due to the I guess what they're calling a terrorist attack that happened in New Orleans last night. Um, so thoughts always out to those folks who were harmed in that attack as well. But we're here to talk about a little bit of some college football, and it started out with a good one today. But first, let me get your quick thoughts, Dylan, on your Ohio State Buckeyes dominating from start to finish today's game against Oregon.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better win, to be honest. I said it Monday on our Saturday Showdown show with me and Caleb. I said I think what is going to be the key for the Buckeyes win today. I mentioned their defense, but the words that came out of my mouth exactly were I think what is going to win us this game is Oregon sitting because of the bye and us having that smashing over Tennessee.
Yeah,
I feel like we were prepped and ready to go, and the momentum was all shifted in our direction. And if we could get off to a hot start, which Ohio State is not totally known for, but I said if we can get off to a hot start, and Oregon might be a little rusty on that bye week, we that could be the deciding factor right there. And we Ohio State did exactly that. I mean, we got off to a booming start.
yeah,
So
yeah. It was 34-8 at halftime. Um, just a little bit of a shell shock, I think. Jimmy, what would you say?
We were interested to see what this was going to mean. This is the first time that we've had the teams coming off a bye. I think the byes are fucking stupid. Like, get rid of them. That should be the first change that's made, and then
Yeah,
expand the playoff. But no byes because every team that had a bye struggled. I think it cost Boise a closer game last night. I don't think
mm,
that Boise was ever in a position to win, but I think that they could have made it a lot more of a closer game. Arizona State might be able to win if they don't have to deal with whatever else is going on. Oregon looked the same way, but there was no chance. Every time that Oregon looked like they might be able to start this massive comeback, it was probably out of reach by halftime, but they never even got close because it was Ohio State's night. I
yeah,
can't. I mean, I'm not necessarily the biggest Ohio State fan. Just interviewed Jim Tressel, so that was pretty cool. But I'm sitting here and it's like Smith is the best receiver in the country. When Will Howard is not pressured, when he doesn't have to do everything, he can run this offense to perfection. Running backs look good. There's not much that you could say about them that looked bad today at all. They
yeah,
look like they had everything pretty much together.
yeah, yeah. It was a little bit of a rough one for Oregon and the Oregon fan base today. You start at 13-0, you finish first, you get your first Big Ten championship. First year in the Big Ten conference too. So it was a little bit of a rough one for the Ducks today. I mean, they were just thought that Ohio State defensive line was all over the place today. Dylan Gabriel had almost zero seconds throughout the game today to get anything off whatsoever. They had one pass in the fourth quarter there to get them to 21, where he had a little bit of time and he got some space downfield. He was able to hit a guy deep in the end zone, but was a rough run, rough one. Holy crap for Oregon in today's game. Let's talk about the other game really quick though. That was today, and that was the Texas and Arizona State. Texas and Arizona State, not Texas A&M. 39-31 final, two overtimes. Uh, this was a fun one to watch. I thought it was going to be a blow. I thought Texas was going to run away with this one too early on. Uh, didn't end up being that way. Arizona had a nice little 16-point comeback in the fourth quarter. Had a really good second half of football to get themselves back in the game. Jimmy.
He did. Arizona State, Kenny Dillingham deserve all the credit. I have a
Yeah.
blog out talking about that game now, but that was like one of the that was almost a Disney moment. I feel like that was as close as we've had to a Disney moment in these playoffs so far because it is a team that shouldn't be there. They were at a very bad place after that Washington loss,
Mhm.
turned themselves around, and this is a team that had every right to win. Maybe not even have to go into overtime. I don't know what you guys feel about that targeting call or lack of targeting call. That was an interesting situation, but I think that just Cam Scatterbo, if we were talking about dominant running backs this weekend, Cam Scatterbo, even with the game plan being to shut him down, actually found ways to help and will his team into a position to try and win. While we saw another running back last night not be able to do that. I'm not sitting here saying that Scatterbo is better than Jeanty, but Scatterbo was able to affect his game way more than Jeanty was able to affect theirs. And Texas's defense is good. Quinn Ewers was pretty damn good today. 3 touchdowns, only 1 interception. But that Arizona State, I think it's a year early. And I think that they might have something where they can pretty much establish themselves as Big 12 dominant.
Yeah. It was a good one. It was definitely the Cam Scatterbo show tonight. Dylan, what was your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, like Jimmy said, that was the closest thing to a Disney moment. I mean, look at Arizona State. I mean, you got a team that had wins vacated. They went 3-9 back-to-back seasons. They had one of the largest turnarounds for a team in terms of win-loss ratio ever.
Mm-hmm.
They come in. They were the complete underdog. Like Jimmy said, they probably shouldn't even been here in the first place. They found a way all season to fight to stay where they were at, and they make it to the college football playoffs. I thought it was going to be a blowout. It certainly looked like that from the start. I mean, Texas was all over them, but they didn't stop, man. Cam Scatterbo, he was so ineffective, through the first part of the game, but he found ways to make himself effective, swing the momentum shift with that massive pass for a touchdown. He did everything. Even when the times he couldn't run the ball, he found a way to do something for his team. And I feel terrible for the kid because he literally did everything in terms of throwing the football, running the football, catching the football. He did everything. And the yards of the contact, you could see how much he wanted to win. I mean, it would take 3 or 4 Texas defenders every time to hit that kid and try to get him on the ground. It was incredible. If they would have got off to a quicker start, I'm pretty confident in saying they probably win this game.
Yeah.
They also couldn't throw. Levitt had a tough day. The offensive line, Texas has a good defensive line, and they got after the passer, and Levitt struggled. 143 rushing yards, 99 receiving yards, and 42 passing yards. I think it was 3 touchdowns total. And he also ran in. There was one sequence where he scored the touchdown and then ran the 2-point conversion in himself too. We talked about last weekend, Joe Burrow saying, F it, I'll win this game myself. Scatterbo was trying to do the same exact thing. I'm over it. You guys are all shitting your pants. Nobody understands what we're trying to do here. I'm taking this thing. I'm putting it in the end zone, and I'm not leaving it up to any of you guys.
Yeah. He definitely had his moment. It was halftime. He said, "I was I'm done." He's like, "I'm done with this. I'm over it. We're gonna do what we can to win this thing." And he went 1 for 1 passing, 42 yards, a touchdown. He had 30 carries for 143 yards and two touchdowns. And then he had 8 receptions for 99 yards as well. So the guy was all over the place, passing, rushing, receiving. If you want a guy that's gonna change the game, the output of the game almost did to advance to the semifinals of the college football playoffs in the first year for Arizona State. I mean, that's the guy that was going to do it. On the other side of things, we've seen this Texas team blow a couple leads late into the season and into today's game too. What's it's going to be that could be an issue later on, in at least in the next round and the round after that, if they were to get to the championship game, Dylan.
If they do that, that's 2 back-to-back lead blows the head. I mean, you're leading by 16 points in the fourth quarter, and you basically allowed one dude, right? You allowed one guy to basically say, this isn't over yet, and he did everything in his power and managed to take you guys to 2 overtimes. Your defense basically couldn't do anything in the fourth quarter. It's almost like you guys decided to play a whole different game. Yeah, and it wasn't the game that Arizona State was playing. I want to give credit to Quinn Ewers. Listen, he was very average all game long, very average, but he came through, especially in overtime. He made some huge throws He made some big plays. He ended up throwing for over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had the 1 interception, but he struggled a little bit. The run game was basically non-existent for Texas. So, he didn't really do as much as Cam, but, we're talking about someone who had to do everything for his team. I mean, the Texas defense had to do their part, but as far as offensively, Quinn Ewers had to lead his team to a victory because they could not run the ball whatsoever. It was on his shoulders to win the game.
I can't believe special teams reared its ugly head again for the Arizona State Sun Devils, because I think that punt return touchdown, if that one's not there, that we can even be sitting here talking about a Sun Devil victory and then moving on to play Ohio State, which after seeing the game tonight, I think that Arizona State's going to be very thankful that they don't have to go through that, because that's just at this point, take all of the good recruiting PR that you're going to get. Kenny Dillingham looks awesome. Scatterbo, love the team. Looks like this is a place that people want to go, and why wouldn't you want to go live in paradise? Beautiful girls that go there on campus. I don't know why I'm doing the recruiting trail for them right now, but that's basically what you use this playoff situation for, and you get almost a perfect result. You went double overtime. You had the best game of the playoffs so far. It's the first game of 2025, and it's going to be on the list for game of the year.
Yeah,
it's all good things at this point, and like I said, it's a year early. I think Kenny Dillingham's going to probably be able to do some moves in the transfer portal because players are going to see what he's able to do. I think it's going to help being in the playoff with his recruiting. This is a team, unlike the teams that we saw last week, losing big. You're taking advantage of the platform that you're getting, and that's all I really wanted to see with this bigger, larger 12-team format.
Yeah. Jimmy, you brought up the targeting call that wasn't called a targeting call. Well, why? What's your thought process on that? Why did you think it was a targeting call? It was not a targeting call.
It's at this point, it's a little bit. It feels like it needs to be reassessed how it's called, because I've seen players get kicked out of games for less than what was on that play. I mean, Arizona State had a kid get kicked out of the Big 12 championship for a much cleaner hit than that. It was a bang situation, so I think part of what the officials were saying is that the safety really has no idea that the receiver is going to be going down. He lowered the level. It wasn't the guy bringing the crown of his head down. It's a bang play. I almost don't know if it's worth having in the rules. It honestly should just probably be a personal foul, like an unnecessary roughness penalty like they do in the NFL, because when you add the extra element of targeting and you have the extra element of, if it is targeting, that guy gets kicked out of the game. I just seen so many situations. You can't call this uniformly. It's an subjective call. It's not objective. So I think that it should just be taken out. I thought that was going to be called because, like I said, I've seen a lot of other plays this season that were a lot less violent than that got people kicked out. I'm not necessarily unhappy that it didn't, but I do think that changes things, and I think there's some things that need to be addressed in the offseason. This has not been a perfect season of college football. I've loved this season of college football. I think that it's great, but there's some things that need to be addressed, like officiating as a whole was terrible all across the board. There needs to be something changed with how we figure out who's going where and who refs certain games. You can't have conference officials, because when you have conference officials and you have incentives based on how far your conference goes, your officiating sucks.
Yeah,
I think there's a few things with the officiating that need to be taken a look at this offseason.
That's fair. Dylan, what do you think on that? The targeting call, it could have been in the benefit for Arizona State. They could have got that, the automatic first down, possibly not even sent it to overtime.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing. That's one of the things that you just got to kind of look at with stuff like this is like, it definitely could have changed the game. I mean, I'm not mad they didn't call it. They probably should have been called. I understand, he didn't lead with the crown of his helmet, but nonetheless, I mean, it was still. I mean, when you watch the replay, I mean, it was still targeting. I mean, there was
helmet to helmet contact for sure,
and it was a lot. It wasn't a minimal amount. Like the kid got slammed. Like Jimmy said, it's just, I felt like this year, especially for some reason. I know officiating is never perfect, but I swear a lot of the games that I watched this year, more like some teams would get some of these calls, and then you flip on the other side of the ball. And the other team wouldn't get the call. It'd be like the same thing. Like someone would get targeting, and then they flip it over, and someone on the opposing team would do the exact same thing.
The end of the BYU Utah game,
and
there was never a pass interference call until the very last play, and that screwed everything up. Arizona State had a game, I think, that went similar to that earlier on this season. Like I feel like it's going to be, I mean, I don't know how much experience you two have with baseball, but it's like an umpire's strike zone where once it's established, then that should just be how it goes. So if it's going to be a tight game, then call it a tight game all throughout. If it's going to be we're letting people play, then let people play. Don't go back and forth. And I see that it's almost like they're trying to throw these games or get certain outcomes, and they're not. They're just, I think sometimes they get bored. It's got to be monotonous watching the same exact thing every single time. Some of them, I don't think that officiating is that hot of a job right now. I don't think that there's a lot of people going into it, so I think they're just making do with what they have. But this is terrible for the talent level, the high level on the field. This is terrible what we're seeing.
Yeah. There's high school. You talk about the officiating thing. There's high school games in Missouri right now that are getting that they have to be moved. You know, instead of being able to play on a Friday night, you have to play on a Thursday night. Or you have to play on a Saturday morning because there's not enough officials. There's not enough people wanting to get into it. There's a lot. There's tons of things into it. One is it's a time commitment thing. You're going to be out and about all the time, somewhere, someplace. An hour drive, 45-minute drive, something like that. But it's also dealing with fans and fan bases, and dealing with you make one bad call sometimes, even though it's a bang bang situation sometimes, and it's what it is, and you just have to go with what you feel is the right call. Unfortunately, it's just what it's going to be sometimes. At the same time.
I mean, again, this isn't high school. This is like college football. You're predicting like some of the biggest outcomes. Like, could you imagine if ASU beats Texas? Like, we're talking about a massive upset here.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like, this isn't just some piddly like flag football game. This is on the biggest stage for college football. And like Jimmy said, if you're going to call something, that's where it should be established. Mm-hmm. In my eyes, if you haven't called anything all game long, you shouldn't be calling something at the end of the game where it's going to affect the game like that. Like if you haven't called it all game long, you might as well just leave it alone.
Yep.
Like there's no reason, like he brought up the BYU game. There's no reason why you shouldn't call anything all game long. And then when the game's on the line, you make one call that absolutely just throws everything, out of the world. So yeah, I mean, they have to find some sort of consistency.
Yep.
You can't do one thing and then not do the other, especially when it looks like you're doing it for one team and not the other. Not saying that's how it goes, but sometimes that's how it looks. Like Ohio State, will get a bunch of calls and they, their defense does it to some team and then they're not calling it, or vice versa. Like that's just how it looks. So there's gotta be a level of consistency here. And like I said, don't do it to where you change the outcome of the game, because that's not fair to some of these guys, dude.
For sure.
It's really not.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I like the if you're not going to call anything all game, but you're going to wait till the last minute and a half to call four things, or even just one thing. Like don't do that. Don't do that. Player of the game for Arizona State, Texas. Jimmy, we'll start with you.
Nobody else besides Scatabo. I think Levitt is a good young quarterback. I didn't realize that he was as young as he is. Hopefully he gets somebody in the backfield that helps him out next season. But Scatabo won the team. They lose effort for Texas. I think that it was. I think I'll give it to Silas. Now I'm trying to remember what his last name is. The guy who returned the punt in the very beginning of the. Let's see. I wrote about it. Come on. All right. I'll just go with Silas. Silas from Texas. I think Texas's special team should get a special shout out because Silas Bolden. I think that they're the big reason why we got that outcome today.
Yeah. Dylan, you got player of the game for the Arizona State Texas game?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's anyone other than Cam Scatabo. I mean, listen, if he's not in that game, this is probably an absolute thumping by Texas. I mean, to be honest, Arizona State probably just gets rolled over. Yeah. He literally did everything he possibly could to make sure that game was exactly where it was, and he almost won the game. And on the Texas side, I'm going to have to give it to Quinn Ewers. He probably made the biggest play of the game in my eyes. 4th and 13. You have to do something, and he throws the touchdown and forces the second overtime. I mean, they were about this close to losing Arizona. I mean, they were that close. And then he comes back in the second overtime, first play of the game, throws a touchdown throws a touchdown pass to the tight end.
Yeah.
Back-to-back touchdowns on back-to-back plays.
Yep.
So he made big plays. So, but yeah.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I think we're across the board here, at least on the Arizona State side. It's Cam Scatterbo. That's an easy one. For Texas, I'm gonna have to give it to the Bolden dude. I mean, he had a heck of a game, overall. So we'll give it to that guy. I want to say Ryan Wingo, just because he's a St. Louis guy. Got a big had a big catch there late in the game too. For Texas, but we'll leave it at that. We'll jump over to, I mean, Jeremiah Smith is first off. My first question is Ohio State the favorite to win the national championship right now?
I don't think how they couldn't be. I mean, I don't think anyone thought they were going to thump Tennessee, and they did. And then including myself, I don't think anyone thought here they were going to beat Oregon by 20, and they're going to be leading 34-0. With 0 seconds going into halftime, and Oregon got that touchdown and the 2-point conversion. But I mean, they were winning 34-0, before they scored that touchdown with 0 seconds on the clock, going into halftime. So, I mean, in my eyes, and that's just not. I mean, I'm an Ohio State fan, so of course I'm going to say them. But if we're just looking about play, I mean, it's got to be them and Penn State as the hottest teams in the playoff right now. I mean, because Penn State's on fire.
We all know what happens when Ohio State plays Penn State.
Yes,
it's not even a joke to make anymore. It's hard for me to think that we were talking about this on our show this past week. I made the prediction that Oregon was going to win the national championship, but when a team loses in a bracket format, you normally switch your pick to the team that beat you. So now that Oregon got beat and whooped the way that they did, Georgia, I worry about because of all the time off. So we're going to see what they're able to do. And this is also going to be a totally different scenario with that game not being able to be played when they were expecting. Yeah. There's probably a lot of emotion going into it. No, I think that they're definitely nobody can cover Ryan Smith. You have to play zone. You have to play man with a safety behind him. And then you can't do that because they have two damn good running backs, All-American caliber running backs, Emeka Egbuka, Carnell Tate. There's too many options. Will Howard does not have to be that good. He just needs to be serviceable, facilitate, run the point guard position, get the ball out to number 4, and figure it out from there.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Smith posted, I guess he tweeted something out earlier this week, and he tweeted out on one of his accounts or put it on one of his accounts, but he was basically talking to Oregon. He said, I'm just letting you guys know right now, because they showed it earlier in the game. He literally said, I'm letting you guys know right now, if you guys play man coverage, there's not a single person who's going to be able to guard me. That's it. And they tried playing man on him throughout a good portion of this game, it felt like. And it never worked out for them whatsoever. I mean, it did not work out. Yeah. The kid is incredible. He really is.
6'3", 220 as a 17-year-old true freshman.
He had 2 catches. He had his first 2 catches. He had 2 catches for 74 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, I mean that's how he started. That's how he started off the game.
His one catch, I don't know how he managed to catch. He had 2 Oregon guys on him. I don't know how he managed to catch that one. And I saw it no, that's incomplete. There's no way. And he got up. He had the ball in his hand. I'm like, okay, like I don't know how you did that, but okay. Like I guess this is yours. This is your game. Yeah, there's no doubt about it that you're going to win this one. Everything is working right for you in the Buckeyes right now.
Well, no, go ahead. I just wanted to give credit to Will Howard too. Like Jimmy said, he doesn't have to be special, right, to play on Ohio State. There's so many options for him to choose from, right? You just got to be able to run that position, like Jimmy said, and just not make turnovers. Like just be a good game manager. I just want to give him credit because that's all he has to do. And 2 games in a row, he's absolutely tore apart defenses. He tore apart Tennessee's defense, right? Threw for over 300 yards against them. He threw for over 300 yards against Oregon. He had 212 yards in the first quarter of football.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be special. And this kid is he's doing he's doing some things. I know he has a bunch of weapons, but like he's going out there and like he's slinging the ball and he's making really good throws and he's being really accurate and he's not making bad decisions. And I mean, I guess you got to give credit to his offensive line too because they gave him quite a bit of time to throw the football today. So,
oh yeah, and I think that's like the thing you've always seen with Oregon is they'd rather be in a shootout than a defensive standoff. It's always this is how Oregon, at least for the amount of time I've watched them, they'd rather be in a game that's 64-62 than a game that's 15-12.
Yeah.
That's why they've never won a national championship.
And that's probably why they won't win one too.
Oh,
they won't
sad.
ever find a team like that.
Well, it's sad because Oregon's, you go all the way back to, you go back to like the Chip Kelly type of era, like fast-paced offense.
Yeah.
They can score 60, but their defense, I'm not saying they're terrible defensively, but they're not good. They let Penn State put a thumping on them. They were lucky to come out of that game with a win. They were lucky to come away with the Ohio State win. Dan Lanning just outcoached Ryan Day. They almost lost to Wisconsin. Like their defense started playing better toward the end of the season, but once again, it's been a team that's really good offensively, but that's what they have to rely on. They have to rely on their offense putting up, 40 points a game, hoping that they can outscore you because their defense is not going to be able to do that. And, that really showed today. Their defense could do nothing against anybody on Ohio State. They couldn't break through the line. They could barely get to Will Howard. They let Will Howard torch him. They let Smith torch him. Abuka torched him. Henderson torched him. They were just not effective whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah, you get Henderson, who went 8 carries for 94 yards, 2 touchdowns. Judkins, 17 carries, 85 yards on the ground for 181 total for the Buckeyes. And receiving wise, you had Jeremiah Smith, who had like 164 yards in the first half and 2 touchdowns, 7 receptions, had 187 total on the day. Mbuka, it's five receptions, 72 yards and a touchdown as well. It's just a good day. It was a beautiful day in Pasadena, and it was a beautiful game put together by the Buckeyes.
Yeah, throw it to number 4.
Yeah,
that was the game plan.
Yeah, it's my understanding Dylan Gabriel was better than Cam Ward.
Dylan Gabriel finished the entire game. What are we talking about?
Yeah. Ends that discussion.
He's got a point.
And he was getting his ass handed to him. He didn't build up a big lead and then leave his guys out to dry.
Well, he broke the school record for however many touchdowns in a season, right?
No, he was getting thumped. Dylan Gabriel was getting
No, Cam Ward.
No, I'm saying like what Jimmy said. Dylan Gabriel was getting pounded today.
8 sacks. He was the best pass rush that Ohio State has had and brought all season. 8 sacks. And I want to get your guys' take on this. In my mind, it's rolling through. Will Howard's like a more talented Stetson Bennett. Bennett won a lot of games.
Yeah.
I feel like that could be I don't know. I don't think that they maybe should have gotten rid of McCord as fast as they did, but they brought in a guy that is very successful within their system.
Yes. Yeah. And I would have to agree. I'm not, Will Howard's not anything fantastic. And that was my big concern, from the very first show this season for the Saturday Showdown. I literally said to Caleb, I know Will Howard can throw the ball. I know he can make good decisions. I know he can win football games, but he's coming from a program that's not Ohio State. You're playing in twice the amount of huge games all season long. So, how are you going to handle yourself in those games? And you've seen it up and down. Plays really well against Tennessee, plays really well against Oregon, but then you go against a team like Michigan, played awful, made the worst type of decisions possible. In the first Oregon meeting, he didn't play terrible. He played good, but he also made some very iffy decisions in that game. So I would have to agree with you. I do think that's a very good comparison. A better Stetson Bennett, and he could definitely win a lot of games at Ohio State for sure.
Yeah, I didn't think he was that bad of a quarterback at K-State. He just didn't have the amount of firepower around him that he does at Ohio State. To be honest,
all you got to do is exist in those 3 seconds between the snap and you getting Smith the ball.
Yeah, that's fair. You got a player of the game for today's Oregon-Ohio State game, Dylan?
Oh yeah, it's Jeremiah Smith. It's Smith. The game plan was to throw to number 4. That's what the game plan was. It was literally, we're going to throw to number 4. and that's all we're going to do. And that's all they did. Don't get me wrong. They ran the ball really successfully, but I mean, 7 catches, 187 yards, average 26 and a half yards a catch, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he was the biggest game changer from the snap of the football.
Yeah.
And on the Oregon side, there really is no winner. But if I had to pick one, it's Dylan Gabriel, because the kid did not give up. He was pounded all game long, sacked 8 times. He was pressured literally probably on every snap he took all game long. He still managed to throw for about 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. So, but I would say for the whole game, it's got to be Smith.
That's fair. Jimmy?
I guess I'll go with Sawyer on the defense, because I've been giving him a hard time, especially after that whole flag situation, flag scenario after the Michigan game.
Yeah.
But that was what we kind of said. Like, you're as upset as you are losing to your rival, but this is the last chance that you have to wear this uniform, so you might as well work as hard as you can and do the things that you need to do to win championships. He had 2 sacks today. He was all over the field, a lot of pass breakups, swatting balls down at the line. So I'll give him the good nod. For Oregon, the team, you ran for minus 23 yards in the playoffs. Minus 23. That does there's sacks that are factored into that. So Dylan Gabriel gives them a minus 43. But everybody else, the only positive yardage that they had in the rushing category was Jordan James with 14 yards. Lamar had 4 yards. Whittington had 3. Tez Johnson had 1 carry for minus 1 yard. And then Gabriel's minus 43 yards. That was where they got their tails kicked more than anything.
Yeah. And Jordan James only played till halftime. I don't know if he came back in the second half. I didn't see him, at least, in the second half of the game. I mean, Ohio State it's got to be what's his name? You just said it. Smith. I'll get to Sawyer, but I think Henderson also deserves a little bit of a nod too. 2 touchdowns. I mean, 8 carries for 94 yards. He had a long one to 66. So you're looking at
Zeke. There's a lot of guys that remind me of older players that have had a lot of success. He kind of reminds me of Zeke, especially on that playoff run. Where Zeke Elliott didn't have the greatest season, but in the postseason, he was everything that you needed, and he was your finisher. He was your closer. If you got a closer, that's a good thing.
Yeah,
that's what I'm worried about with Georgia. If we're going to get into a little bit of discussing what the game's going to look like tomorrow, if they don't have Love in the backfield, it's going to, for Notre Dame, that's going to make them struggle against Georgia, because Riley Leonard can't throw the football. So they need to have a good running game. You need to establish that kind of dominance. You need to take the trend of everything else that's happened over the weekend and use it to your advantage. Jump out on this Georgia team that hasn't been playing for a long time, that's playing behind a brand new freshman quarterback in his first ever career start. Go get after them. Pound them early.
Yeah. For the Oregon side of things, I think Trayshawn Holden, at least for me, that's where my player of the game is. 7 receptions, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns on the day, with the 44-yard receiving touchdown too. I think he gets a nod for me for player of the game in this one, in the 41-21 loss to Ohio State. Tomorrow, the last and final round 2 game of the college football playoffs. So you get Notre Dame and Georgia. It's obviously supposed to be today. If you didn't know, it's postponed to tomorrow, 4:30 Eastern time, due to the not so great activities that happened yesterday evening, and kind of led into today a little bit too. There's been some things too that have happened today that have been a little iffy too, from my understanding, from what I've seen. Don't for sure know if those are actual things that for sure happened, but sounds like it hasn't been a fun day for the New Orleans Police Department. So thoughts on everything and whatnot with them, making sure they're all staying safe. Who wins tomorrow's Georgia Notre Dame game, and who's going to be just who's going to be the difference maker in this one, Dylan?
I'm still going to stick with my original pick from earlier this week. I wouldn't mind seeing Notre Dame winning, but I just think Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs, they've been here before. They know what this like. He knows what this is like. I'm going to take Georgia to win the game. It's probably a tight-knit game, especially with them sitting. We've seen what happens to teams when they sit a little bit. It doesn't really work out in their favor. And, they got Gunnar Stockton, first-time starter. But I'm going to have to take Georgia for the win here. Like I said, just the experience alone. But I don't really see it. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some sort of an offensive playmaker, but I think the biggest game changer for Georgia, I think it's going to be their defense. If they can find a way to get after Riley Leonard and make him feel pressured and uncomfortable, I think that's going to be the biggest game changer for the Bulldogs going forward. Winning this game. So,
yeah, Jimmy, what do you think?
I think it's going to come down to trusting in your guys' game plan, trusting in the guys that you have around you, because if you don't, if you go out there and if you play timid, if you look at it as Georgia's been in this situation, we haven't, you're just setting yourself up to lose. So go in with an attack mindset, be aggressive. I'd rather, if I'm Notre Dame, if I'm Marcus Freeman, I'm telling my guys, I'd rather you go out there and we make a whole bunch of mistakes, but we're at least trying to win instead of going out there playing not to lose and give it away in one or two situations. I think that's what Dillingham told his guys at halftime. I was thinking Lanning was going to tell Oregon that at halftime of the game today, but it was already kind of just too far out of reach. But I think if Notre Dame is going to have any kind of X factor, it's just, you have a chance. This is a good situation. You're not playing against a starting quarterback. This team is not unbeatable. They've showed weaknesses all throughout the season. So play to your strengths, play as hard as you can. And I think that Notre Dame, there is a better shot of Notre Dame pulling off an upset than I would have initially thought at the end of the season.
I mean, for God's sakes, how many overtimes did they go with? How many overtimes did Georgia go with Georgia Tech? How many overtimes?
That's probably my favorite game of the entire season, but that was hilarious.
I mean, I would have never thought, if you would have asked me in the very beginning of the season who would win this game, I probably would pick Georgia every time, without a doubt. I thought Georgia was going to be the best team of football before the season started, but Notre Dame has a real shot here. I mean, we've seen what happens to teams so far when they sit. They're rusty, and everything is in Notre Dame's favor.
Yeah,
Georgia has sat. Beck is not there, and this Georgia team is not the best Georgia team that's been there. I mean, literally everything is in Notre Dame's favor. Everything is swinging their way. So if they come out and just don't make mistakes and just play like they want to freaking be there, like they deserve to be there, they could possibly pull off an upset.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Riley Leonard in the Fighting Irish, I think they have a really, really solid chance. I mean, just based off of the slow starts that some of these teams on the bye week have had already. Kirby Smart, saying earlier this week that Georgia's got to start out fast. It's 100% true that you got to come out because it's a good Notre Dame football team. You can't sit there and say that they're not. They lost to NIU. Yeah, they lost to NIU. It was a bad loss. We know that. Bad loss. But they've been on a absolute roll against everybody since then. They haven't had a close game since, and it's not because they haven't played well, I don't say that because, they've played Army. They rolled Army. They played USC. Indiana. Indiana's not bad.
Last week was the first playoff caliber team that they've played, and it was a borderline playoff caliber team.
Yeah. If we see the Notre Dame team that we saw against Indiana, and I know that there's ups and downs. People are saying, that was a really good game by Notre Dame, not so great game by Notre Dame. What big question mark for me is what Notre Dame team are we going to see? Are we going to see the team that beat, Florida State 52-3, or are we going to see the team that lost to NIU?
We're going to have to see the best Notre Dame team up to date. Whatever the best version of themselves is, that's the team that they're going to have to be. I don't even think they can be the team that beat Indiana. Like, you're going to have to be better than that. This is not your best team you played up to date was literally Indiana, in my opinion. I'm not saying, you didn't play some decent teams along the way, but I mean, it's like any other like notable team. Like,
yeah.
Ohio State, for example, like they play some good teams, but they there's more or less they play like a bunch of nobodies along with their Penn States or their Oregon. Like they play a handful of good games, right? You're gonna have to be the best version of yourself if you want to beat Georgia. I'm not, everything's in your favor, but Kirby Smart's been here before. Probably the best coach in college football, if not one of the best right now in college football. Right? He knows what he's doing. He's been here before. Like, you're gonna have to be the best version of yourself. You're gonna have to come out there. You have to give to a fast start, not make mistakes, and you're like Jimmy said, do not be afraid. Go out there and start laying it down. Because if you shy away from this Georgia team, they're a team that could run away with it. Do not do that. Go out there and just make it. If you're gonna make a bunch of mistakes, make it, recover from it, do whatever you got to do. But yeah, you're gonna have to be the best version of yourself. Whatever that is, you're gonna have to be that. You're gonna have to be that version.
Yeah, we'll see that game. Kickoff's actually at 3:00. I thought it was 4, or it's 3:00 Central Time, 4:00 Eastern Time. So it's 4:00, 3:00, 2:00, 1:00. Across the country, you'll see that game tomorrow afternoon, before Thursday Night Football, which should be interesting. Also, it's what, Denver? Is it Denver and LA?
No, that was a couple weeks ago.
Last week.
I don't think there's a Thursday Night Football game. I think last week was the last Thursday Night Football game.
I thought there was still one more.
But there's games on Saturday again this week.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's no Thursday Night Football. My bad. I thought there was still a Thursday Night Football game this week. So no NFL Thursday night.
We kick it off on Saturday.
There we go. So you get Georgia Notre Dame tomorrow. You get a day, and then NFL on Saturday. And yeah, any final thoughts on today's? And we didn't even talk about the Penn State game, but I'll let Dylan and Caleb do that on Monday's show. So we'll leave that one be as well. Any final thoughts on today's games from you guys before we head out?
I don't think so.
No.
Actually, there will be another blog coming out. So feotbpod.org. You can catch up with the written material, post everything there. So if you're interested in one-stop shopping for any of our content, and then obviously Talking the Gridiron on Sundays, Darren and I, we're going to continue through the playoffs, but we have our regular season finale this week. There's a lot of playoff scenarios that are at play.
Yeah, Vikings get the 1 seed in the NFC. Blows my mind.
I hate that so much this year.
Blows my mind. Sam Darnold's going to get a paycheck. Well, you guys can talk about that on Gridiron and whatnot. Dylan?
Nope. No.
See you Monday?
Yeah, see you Monday.
See you Monday. Okay, sounds good. Just remember, everybody's climbing a mountain, so be nice. We'll see you next time.